Welcome back, everyone, to another Monday live stream. I guess I just realized that there's a huge bar at the top of this thing, but I don't know why that's showing up. It doesn't normally show up. That's why it doesn't normally show up, because I have to go to present. I'm a dummy. But anyways, welcome everyone to another Monday live stream. You'll notice that Aaron is not here. This is Dave. Dave's Cards 32 from Minnesota, and a great guy, also very intelligent. And so we have him on. You'll remember we had him on late December, me and him, and we talked about the Marvel card market. He was just fresh off of selling his Spider-Man Red PMG for a record price at the time. Those obviously have gone straight back downwards where they came from. But Dave is back again. So Dave, thanks for joining.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And I think I was on about a year ago because we had a very similar conversation about cards you're buying going into the NFL season. So getting a nice little cadence here.
Well, there we go. Dave is a every 6 months type of guy.
Perfect. Works for
Love
me.
it. Well, for today, and for everyone that might hear me cough, Aaron's been taking the brunt of the talking lately because I have had a cough that I just can't get over since getting COVID at the National. So bear with me. Bear with me if I do end up coughing a little bit. um, Today we are covering Football Market Movement episode 96. So we've got a number of things that we want to talk about with Dave. He is a big football guy. He likes cards of every sport, honestly. You collect quite literally everything. But you're a bigger football guy than Aaron and I. So we're going to take this opportunity to talk about football today. If you are in the comments, number one, welcome, Global. Thanks for joining. And then if you have any comments, please let us hear them, and we will do our best to discuss them. And Dave, if you see any comments that are interesting on the side, feel free to call them out. When I'm in the slideshow presentation, I cannot see any of the comments.
Okay. Perfect.
Sweet. All right. Well, before we get into this, I just wanted to really bring up quick the SGC submission group that Aaron and I at SlabStox have going on. So this month only ending on August 30th. So get these cards in quick. Need them by the 29th. That's 7 days away. You can get every 5 cards you send in to SlabStox grading, you get one free. And you can see that promo code on the side there, NTL22 for 5 cards plus 1 free, NTL222 for 10 cards plus 2, and then it's NTL22 and then the number of free cards all the way down up until 10. If you need more than 10, you can DM SlabStox grading or SlabStox, and we can get a special promo code put in there for you. Say if you wanted to send in 100 cards, how you do that is you go to slabstox.com/grading. You put in your info, you put in your card info, and then at the end you put in the promo code. So if you're interested in that, slabstox.com/grading. Remember, August 30th is the end of the promo. That's our last August submission. And right now, if you put in those promo codes, it comes out to around $20 a card as opposed to $23, about the best SGC grading price you will find anywhere. All right. And real quick recap of the PWCC weekly auction number 31. So we had our 31st weekly auction live stream last night, and it went well. Aaron and I sold a Dustin May orange auto number to 25, Bowman Chrome orange auto number 25, BGS 95 that we bought for $300 back early June in preparation for him returning. And we sold it for $525. Well, it was $630 with buyer's premium, and I think we netted like $546. So it was like $246 for holding on to it for 2 months. In today's market, I will take that. But we have the 3 of the top football cards here on the podium Instagram post here. And you've got the Joe Montana PSA 9 auto. Dave, how do you feel about on-card autos of older cards? Because they seem like they're popping off a little bit.
Yeah, they do seem to be popular. I've never been a big fan of it just because Um, I don't know. Maybe this is the pessimist to me, but I never know if they're real or not. You know, and obviously, PSA authenticates it, and Beckett does as well. But it's more of like, unless I was there and saw like Joe Montana sign it, it probably wouldn't mean as much. But compared to these other two cards, that's still the one I would want.
I agree with you there. I mean, the other two cards, for those of you that aren't watching, is the Trey Lance Optic Downtown Gold out of 10. I believe that was a PSA 10. And then the Tua Flawless Nike Patch 1 of 1 RPA BGS 9.5. And the price is there 17,400 for the Montana, 16,800 for the Lance, and 15,600 for the Tua. The other two are just gigantic risks. You could be throwing all of that money away pretty easily. Whereas you know for a fact you spend 17,400 on Joe Montana, that's likely not going to go down. Maybe it does a little bit if we get into a major recession or something. But Joe Montana is an all-time great and will always be an all-time great.
I think it's amazing that it graded a 9, because those are really tough to get good centering on. So this must be one of those things where somebody either had it in their collection forever and had Joe Montana sign it, or just kept busting wax until they got a good centered one for him to sign. But to get that in a 9 is not an easy feat, let alone after it's been touched and autographed and stuff.
Yeah, tell me about it. Like just autographing the surface, you could mess up that surface to the point
Hmm.
where you get lower than a 9. But 62% of people agree with Dave and I. Joe Montana, clearly the best buy. 22% and for Lance and 16% for Tua. All right. The trender up, trender down for this week. 1 year trender on the Jalen Hurts cracked ice auto PSA 10 back in October. This card sold for $4,000 into the new year, and he really didn't do that much. But huge helium name here has gone up 211%. Consider me somebody that's not a huge believer in Jalen Hurts. I'm not 100% sure where all this hoopla is coming from, but it's there, and this card is raised 211% for his cracked ice auto PSA 10 out of 22, and it is a pop one, I believe. And then the dropper of the week, Wander Franco BGS 9 3 month trend. May 30th is the last time this, or not the last time this sold, but the one I went back to, because the one that sold before this was like 2 days prior, and I didn't feel like that was a good trend. So $7,500. This last one, 38% drop from the May 30th sale, which is pretty drastic. Obviously, you have this big of a card. I would advise not selling it when he's injured. So
Anthony brings up a good point in the comments about Jalen Hurts, and them going to win the East, the NL, or it's the NL, the
NFC,
NFC East. Sorry, I'm
I
I'm
do that.
looking
I do
directly at
that.
that Wander.
I do that every single time I start talking about football right now because I'm firmly into baseball mode.
Yeah, but the NFC East, I mean, you obviously the Cowboys have talent, but the Cowboys are the Cowboys.
Mike
Uh,
McCarthy's their coach.
Yep, there you go. The Giants are brand new coaching staff, and Daniel Jones got his 5th-year option decline, so he may be motivated this year, but again, at this point, he's still Daniel Jones. And the Commanders are the Commanders,
And they
and
have Carson Wentz.
yeah, they're still struggling to find their identity and settle into that. No pun intended with the new name or anything.
And that's fair, Anthony. All good points and points I appreciate, and definitely should maybe be more careful when I say something about a quarterback, because those are the exact points I would bring up for a different quarterback if I liked him. Um, so I get it, and I guess just what Jalen Hurts has showed me the last couple of years, what I see there, and irregardless of team and everything, yeah, I expect him to have a pretty easy cakewalk unless the Cowboys wake up. Uh, I just don't understand how it's risen 211%.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes from, I believe reports have been pretty good in this offseason about him from coming out of minicamp and preseason. And it's his second year in the offense. And they've got some good young players, and I think there's just buzz, but the NFL is all about, or the card market's all about who's going to make the playoffs, because you want that magical Super Bowl run like the Bengals had last year, right? And it's just the market telling you, hey, we think the Eagles got a legit shot. Like, I would imagine you line this up with maybe the Vegas odds for the Eagles, and you've seen the Vegas odds for the Eagles get better to make the playoffs, and probably correlates to the Cards.
Okay. Well, consider me a person that watching this happen and watching Kellen Mond, who we're going to get into, and watching, the Gardner Minshews and the Mason Rudolphs and everyone else down that line, Daniel Jones and um, Sam Darnold when he got traded to the Panthers. Watching the football market makes me never want to invest in the football market. It's a complete different animal than most other things.
I'd
Um,
still rather have that Wander though.
yeah, I'd rather have the Wander too and pocket the $5,000, 100%.
Definitely.
And was it a smart play to pay 211% more this summer than last summer or last fall for Jalen Hurts? 79%, no. And then lastly, budget section, because we cover a lot of big cards, but there is obviously cheap cards out there. And these are all $125 and below. You could get a Bo Bichette, Topps Heritage Real One Auto, Devin Duvernay, who might have a bigger role in the Ravens offense this year, Gold Disco Mosaic Auto out of 10 for $30. I mean, come on. Patrick Williams, who I personally am excited about. Hope to see some growth there with a healthy season, out 149 or 175, I can't remember which, Purple Ice for 100. Winner stays Donruss Red Laser, LeBron James for 103 out of 99. Alex Morgan, 2011 sticker PSA 9 for 96. And Makoko, Topps Chrome Sapphire, SGC 10 for $86. So not really have anything to say there. It's just you can get budget cards and pretty nice cards. I mean, I'd have loved to bought that Devin Duvernay for $30 and just see what happens. You know?
Yeah. All it takes is one big week and you're in a good
Correct.
spot.
Correct. You get a 100-yard week and a touchdown in week 1 or week 2. You could probably sell that thing for $100.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we have a number of sections today for you guys, and we're going to get into number 1 here. And so the first section, I usually put a title, I did not hear, is we're going to look at 2021 quarterbacks, compare it to their contemporary from the 2020 draft, and then kind of look at their schedule and say, hey, do we see them making the playoffs? Are they worth the price when compared to this other player that was in their exact same spot? Yada, yada, yada. To start off, though, we've got 3 sales from last night's PWCC Premier Auction, and this is pretty crazy. So the Shimmer 5 of 5 PSA 9 Prism Auto sold for $7,800. The Camo out of 25 PSA 9 sold for $6,000, and then an impeccable helmet patch auto out of 15 PSA 10 sold for $4,800. The 2021 QB class in this week's PWCC weekly auction was insane. Like, there was multiple Zach Wilson stars and stripes, and we'll get into it. But so we got these Trevor Lawrence sales. What's cool about these, or maybe not cool, but kind of cool, PSA 9 sold for $7,800 last night. A BGS 9 early August sold for $7,000. So $800 extra for the PSA 9 and BGS 9 is cool. The one that's really crazy, though, the raw camo on August 20th. You'll notice that this sold August 21st, the camo auto PSA 9 on your right. August 20th, raw sold for $3,905. 1 day later, PSA 9 sells for $2,100 more. Dave, can you make any sense of that?
The only thing I can think of is quality control on 2021 Prism is terrible. It's worse in retail than it is on a hobby, but very very off center. So I think you maybe you have someone that's being a little savvy and going, I'm assuming any raw card I buy is an 8, and 9s are going to have premiums on them, and 10s are going to blow everything out of the water. But you legit may not see a 10 camo because the quality control is that rough on things. That's the only thing I can think of other than jersey number or something like that.
I mean, $2,000 for the hope that there's not going to end up being like any PSA 10s. That's so crazy to me. I think I'd rather have the raw at that point and buy the card, not the grade. If
Yep.
it were me. And Anthony asked a real quick question. I missed this. I might have missed this, but anyone know that what SGC turnaround times are doing right now? I'm hearing lightning fast. Our last sub, I believe, got graded within 3 days. So in, graded, and shipped back out in 3 days.
Yeah, so I had 31 cards, I think, on that August 15th submission. And I mean, that's when you guys sent it out. And I think Aaron texted me today and said grades were popping or we're in the process of getting populated. So super quick.
Okay, so August 15th to August. So I mean, we shipped it out. Probably took 3 to 4 days to get there. The weekend, I mean, we're still probably talking 3 days here. So insanely quick. The best way to be able to maximize your money and maximize your, if specifically if you're looking to flip, SGC is a really good way to go. All right, so we covered some cards. Now let's look at his highest price card ever sold. National Treasures NFL Shield 101 BGS 8, 3,000 or $336,000 on August 20th on Golden the other night. Now, obviously, this is National Treasures. This is cream of the crop. I get it. So when I compare these other cards, keep that in mind that the NT is always going to carry a premium. That being said, I couldn't find this for Joe Burrow leading up to the season last year because I wanted to take Joe Burrow, number 1 pick, Trevor Lawrence, number 1 pick, and then also take leading up to second season as opposed to just taking prices from wherever, whenever. And so keep that in mind. But $336,000. So we are trying to get all of these cards to add up to $336,000. And I'm pretty sure it was like $600 under or something. But you could have gotten these 5 cards between the months of May and October. And remind you, October, Joe Burrow was playing in the NFL in his second season for a combined $336,000 or pretty close. So the first one is the Super Bowl ticket 1 of 1. I'm a little confused as to why Golden labeled it BGS 9.5 or BGS 10 because it's not graded, but at least from the picture, it's not graded. So very confusing there, maybe a little bit misleading. But $181,000 May 24th. You could have also gotten, and I think these are kind of stupid, but I'm also not rich enough to buy one, so who cares what I think. 2020 Flawless, the NFL logo with the diamonds in it, and then on the other side it gives like the player it's associated with. 101 there, August 10th, 2021 for 51,000. The 1 of 1 white sparkle auto PSA 9 of Joe Burrow. So you have the white sparkles that are not numbered, and then the autos, which are 1 of 1s for $40,000 on October 4th. The flawless NFL Shield 1 of 1 BGS 9.5 non-auto there, just the Shield for $36,900 October 25th, and then ending it out a Joe Burrow Gold Kaboom out of 10 PSA 9 for $25,000. You could have gotten all 5 of those cards, and I kind of want to know what people in the comments think. Leading up to his second season, you could have got all 5 of these cards, or leading up to his second season, you could have got the 1 NT NFL Shield RPA out of 1.
I think it's really easy for people to go, I mean, look back and go, oh yeah, I would have taken all the Burrows, right? Because
Yep.
hindsight's 2020. Burrow made the Super Bowl run. But if you remember, Burrow tore his ACL his rookie year, right? And he missed a chunk, and I think he came back from it kind of quick. His recovery was pretty good, but there's still that unknown of how's he going to bounce back. Now he wasn't a mobile quarterback, or he's not a mobile quarterback like Lamar Jackson or something like that, so maybe a little bit less concerned as a pocket passer. But I I would imagine that might have kept prices down a little bit last year. Either way, I'd probably rather have a house than any of these cards, but
Yeah.
the people buying these aren't worried about if they can afford a house or not.
Now let me ask you a question. Let me challenge your question with a question. Trevor Lawrence, uh, almost broke a record or did break the record for the amount of interceptions in a year. And of course, I know they had the whole um, um, Urban Meyer fiasco there and everything. I get it. Um, but like Trevor Lawrence also was not good last year. Now Peyton Manning obviously had a billion interceptions. Troy Aikman had a billion interceptions. And if you're, I stand by this with Wander Franco because people are cutting bait. If you have the talent to be the number one prospect, you have talent. It doesn't just disappear. If you're Trevor Lawrence and you have the talent to be the number one pick and to be like the highest rated quarterback uh, prospect coming out of the draft for years and years and years since Andrew Luck, you have talent. And just because you have one bad year, it doesn't really mean anything. That being said, I am $336,000.
It's it's insane, but I mean the price of NT this year was insane as well. But you make a good point about essentially Trevor Lawrence's history. I mean, the dude's been on the radar since I think his freshman year of high school. I believe he didn't lose a game in high school. He didn't lose a regular season game in college. I mean, his first regular season loss since what was it, eighth grade came in his rookie year.
That's amazing.
Um, and I think that's real fact. Someone fact checked me, but I'm pretty sure that was the buzz going around last year. So I think you're right. You probably have people knowing his history, knowing how he's viewed. The Jaguars improved. I don't think they got that much better with the talent they added around him. But it also probably can't get any worse than it did last year. And when we talk about Trey Lance and some other guys, you're going to hear all these comparisons. And I think the Peyton Manning comparison is what subconsciously people are getting stuck with, and they don't want to miss out. And again, the dude that's paying 350 grand for this card, probably it'll hurt if he's a bust, but it won't hurt as bad as if you or I shelled out that kind of money for this.
Well, for starters, I would be selling parts of my body to get to $350,000. Um, and if I did have $350,000 to spend, I would be a dead man because my wife would murder me within an instant if I spent that on a piece of cardboard.
Yeah,
Same with you. I can
yeah,
guarantee it.
yeah. I got a 7-month old. I can't have a card that's worth that much.
No. So let's look one last thing, and also just an insane amount of it. Just but I get it, but his market was a little bit low because of the injury and everything. But this was 2021. You know,
Mhm.
this 2022 is the year of prices dropping. This is 2021 when prices were supposed to be at an all-time high, and you could still get all of these cards for the price of the one Trevor Lawrence that sold in 2022. That's also part of the equation in my mind that's like crazy.
Yep. And it's folks just don't want to miss out on the next Mike Trout, Tom Brady, whatever. And when you got that kind of money to throw around, you take calculated risks, and then if you miss, you get a tax write off on your asset dropping in value. Your cost basis. So there's guys that with that kind of money are playing on different levels than you or I are, right? With some of that. So I'm sure there's a lot of, hey, either he booms and I sell this for $1 million and make a nice profit and pay taxes on that, or I sell it for 100 grand in a year because he doesn't take that next step. and then I get a $200,000, loss on my collectible that I can use that to offset other taxes.
True. Also, how good?
Financial advice, but I'm sure that's what's going on.
Yeah. How good do you think the person that sold or bought this Joe Burrow Super Bowl ticket 101 for 181,000 is feeling right now? It's got
I
to
would be
be.
surprised if he actually still owned it.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, one last thing here. Let's look at schedule. So I pulled up Joe Burrow's schedule from last year, and I pulled up Trevor Lawrence's schedule from this year. Now, Burrow, obviously, they had some really close losses, lost by 3 to Chicago, lost by 3 to Green Bay, lost by 3 to New York, lost by 3 to San Francisco, and then the Cleveland one, Burrow didn't play. It could easily been, could have been 11-6 if he had played in Cleveland, and could have easily added on an extra 4 wins. They went to the Super Bowl, and there's a reason for that. They're a really good 10-7 team, like a really insanely good 10-7 team. And looking at Trevor Lawrence's schedule, you saw what Joe Burrow cards did in the last year, and a lot of that has to do with going to the Super Bowl. Looking at Trevor Lawrence's schedule, Washington, I could see him beating Houston, New York, Detroit, and I don't even want to give him Detroit because Detroit was like the best 3-14 team I've ever seen in my entire life. Like they lost a ton of 1, 2, 3 point games, and to the point where they're scrapping. I think they could be better. So I'm not going to give them Detroit, but New York and Houston. That's 5 games that are like maybe wins, and maybe even Washington might not be. So 4 to 5 wins there. Everything else, Indianapolis is going to be tough. Los Angeles is going to be tough. Philly is going to be tough. Denver, that 4 game stretch in the middle there where it's Denver, the Raiders, Kansas City, and Baltimore, going to be really tough. 2 games at the end of the year, Tennessee in December and January, having to stop um, Derrick Henry. That's going to be tough as can be. And then Dallas. Like, how many wins do we think the Jaguars are going to get this year based off of that schedule?
I think last I saw Vegas had their over under at 6 wins. But also this I could be completely wrong on this, but I thought at the end of last season, wasn't there some big crazy stat that like Indy hadn't won in Jacksonville for like 5, 6, 7 years or something like that? Didn't like last week of the season, Indy kind of imploded down in
Yeah,
Jacksonville, lost the division or something. Uh,
but they have Matt Ryan now.
That's true. Yep. Yep. And I would definitely take Matt Ryan over Carson Wentz. But yeah, I mean, you have surprises every year. You always have teams that go from worst to first. I don't think
But
anybody's expecting the
you
Jaguars to
you
put up
just have to
wins.
look to your left at the Bengals.
Yes, exactly. So, are they going to be a surprise team? Maybe. Who knows? Who knows what actually happens when you have a professional coaching staff in there and
Yeah.
an upgraded roster? What that can do? A healthy Travis Etienne. I mean, if that dude becomes like the next Kamara, you just hand it off and dump it to him. Yeah, you could be a 500 team, but I don't think anyone's expecting it. Aaron's dropping a bunch of stuff in the comments as well. I think he says, "Hey,
Ooh. So Aaron's saying, Dave, you may plan on talking about this, but what do you think is the best plan for selling football coming back from grading? Sell some to cover fees, hold the rest, capitalize on preseason hype on all of it. I know a lot of our submitters had football in there that might help them.
um, So here's the thing. If you're selling now, you might be too late, right? As we talk about these hype cycles and stuff that come, um, everybody is buying football in the offseason to sell in August. So if you have something that's very common, then you potentially are selling at the same time someone else is trying to sell their 20 other base prisms, right? So unless you're finding an auction that maybe ends at a different time, like a Tuesday night instead of a Sunday night when everybody has their auctions end, um, there's some things that you can play around with there, but it kind of depends on who it is and if it's someone that you believe in or a team that you believe in. Obviously, if it's for your collection, then hold on to it. But if you're looking to flip some raw to grade, spend some time, do some digging on strength of schedule. We see this every year where some team starts out hot 4-0, 5-0, and prices skyrocket for that quarterback. I think Russell Wilson's been an example of that the last 3, 4 years. where he has a really good first quarter of the season or so. Prices go crazy, and then the Seahawks, at least in the past, kind of dropped off a bit, and his prices cooled off. So there's different avenues that you can go. It's just going to take some time and research, and also figuring out how patient you want to be, and if you believe somebody is a Super Bowl contender or not.
There we go. Hope that helps, Aaron. Hope that helps, and everyone else who is potentially looking to sell their football cards. All right, Dave. I've gone very slow. We've barely made it anywhere in, so I'm going to speed up drastically.
Perfect.
All right, Zach Wilson. 3 Zach Wilson cards, all NTRPAs. The BGS 9 sold for $57.60. Of the Stars and Stripes out of 25, the PSA 7 sold for $44.40. Of the Stars and Stripes, and the new purple out of 49 BGS 9, 4,800. I want to ask you one really quick question. Do you think it's absurd that BGS 9 only sold for 1,300 more than a PSA 7?
Um, no, because I think it's absurd that you had two red, white, and blues in the same auction from the standpoint of you've split your buyers, right? I bet if those ran in different weeks, you'd probably see both of them go a little bit higher. And that's not a knock on PWCC or anything like that. You know, each auction house does their own thing. But when we talk about that buying and hype sell off in August, that's where you kind of have to be strategic and plan around. Otherwise, you could run into a scenario like this where it fits what PWCC says. They say they won't have the exact same card. The grades are different grading companies, but unfortunately, it kind of probably hurt both of them from that.
And a friendly reminder is that somebody could have flash auctioned one of these.
Oh, definitely. Yep.
Nothing PWCC can do from
Right.
that standpoint. But 3 massive sales here, and so we got the highest card sale of Zach Wilson, which is the Stars and Stripes NFL Shield 101. To be honest, I did not know they made a Stars and Stripes NFL Shield. So are there 2 different NFL Shield 101 NTRPAs every year? One Stars and Stripes, one regular?
I don't know if there has been in years past, but there is now. Isn't there? I thought I saw the other week there's something like 1,200 different Trevor Lawrence 101s in
Oh,
21 product. So it
that
wouldn't surprise
somebody
me if
somebody
Zach
did tell
Wilson
us that.
has
So
just the same amount.
insane, and really kind of waters down what a 101 is. But 66,000 on August 20th, 2022 for this. Here's cards of Tua, the second drafted quarterback in 2020 that you could have gotten for 66,000 going into last season. Gold Kaboom out of 10, PSA 10, the non true RPA but NFL Shield 101 auto BGS 9 from National Treasures, a flawless Dan Marino Tua dual auto 101, which is pretty cool, I think. Dan Marino auto on card with Tua, pretty sweet. Cracked Ice auto out of 22 PSA 10 for 8,900. Another subset NT NFL gear, Nike patch, rookie, probably a laundry tag in there, 101 PSA 9, and then just your run of the mill NTRPA at a 99. You combine all those, and I think it was $176 more than 66,000. So you could have gotten those 6 last year at this time, Tua going into his second season, or this one, also kind of a subset NTRPA 101 of Zach Wilson. Like, say what you will about Trevor Lawrence and the Joe Burrow being injured, Trevor Lawrence being on a bad team last year. This is more absurd to me because, like, what has Zach Wilson done better than what Tua did in his first year to prove anything to make it worth this much compared to all of these Tuas?
So mom jokes aside, I think it really comes down to the fact that it's a 101, right? And
Yeah.
101 in a premium product from first off the line, which you could, depending on how much you bid, you got a box or you didn't. Um, Tua's rookie season was very lackluster. I think he got benched once or twice, got injured as well. Um, so it's probably one of those things where shiny new toy.
Now
Zach Wilson.
a lot of his benching came with because of Brian Flores not liking him,
True.
you
Yep.
know, more so than maybe talent. But
Yep. But it's still he got benched. His teammates didn't come forward and go, no, this is our quarterback. Like he's still a good leader, whatever it may be. And maybe he turns around this year. He's got a new system, new coach, obviously upgraded weapons around him. And but just given the card market in general and what big markets do, I think I'd still rather have the Zach Wilson.
wow. Now I'm a Tua guy through and through, so I'm taking these Tuas
Are you
because
left-handed? Is that why?
no,
Okay.
no, just people hated on Tua, and I like the underdog, which is why I'm coming to the defense of Kirk Cousins later in this slideshow. Big underdog guy, and so I'm a Tua guy. So here we are, pitting
And
me
that's
against
that's
Dave.
that's the joy about sports cards too, is you can do your own thing. You can find the guys that you want, and some people sometimes you're gonna be right, sometimes you're gonna be wrong. And um the nice thing about going the direction of Tua in that example is you now have, what was that, 6, 7 different avenues to sell off and
Hmm.
either pull some money back or, if he does real well, sell off half of them, and then the rest is essentially house money. Whereas if you go my route with the Zach Wilson of things, um, it's boom or bust, and it very well could be bust.
I agree. All right, so looking at scheduled here, this is what Tua did last year, 9-8. And this is the schedule for Zach Wilson. Now, a couple things here for Tua. Um, Number one, the first four losses were on Jacoby Brissett, not Tua. So there was that 3-point loss in overtime there against the Raiders, but those first four losses were on Jacoby Brissett. Tua did not play. And then the next three losses, you'll notice two of them were by 3 points and 2 points. Um, I know they're not good teams, Jacksonville, Atlanta, but it's like they're two pretty easy things away from being 11-4 with Tua as their starting quarterback.
Mhm.
Instead of 9-6, and still 9-6 is pretty good. I bet if Tua plays in a couple of those games, maybe it's a little bit different against the Raiders or against Indianapolis. And so that's what Tua did. Zach Wilson, you look at his schedule, probably not beating Baltimore, probably not beating Cincinnati, probably not beating Green Bay or Denver or New England or Buffalo or New England or Minnesota or Buffalo. I mean, anything can happen. We know that. The NFL proves that every year. Just looking at it on paper, it's like uh,
The
Cleveland.
AFC is rough. I mean, you've heard everybody talk about it for the last handful of weeks, AFC quarterbacks and how rough things are. And you just go into that division, right? You've got Zach Wilson, Tua, Mac Jones. Oh, and by the way, Josh Allen, who's
That
probably
could
top
that
three
could be
quarterback in the
easy
league right
six
now.
losses.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where, yeah, you have to win your non-divisional games, or your non-divisional games, and maybe get lucky. Maybe you hope Josh Allen tweaks his ankle or something
But
when you play him and he can't run around. There is a fair amount of luck when it comes to the NFL schedule and how things kind of shake out for teams.
I mean, two of their non-divisional games back-to-back weeks are against Green Bay and Denver. No, thank you.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's still the first half of the season for Russell Wilson, so I'm sure Denver will still be playing well by then.
And you can tell how much the NFL thinks the Jets are going to do by the fact that they've got noon, 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 noon. I mean, they don't expect them to be good. They've got 3 games outside of noon.
And their one primetime game is against Jacksonville at the end of the season.
Who nobody's going to tune into that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, moving on real quick. Trey Lance, 3 big sales yesterday. The Optic Downtown Gold, of course, is insane. The Blue Ice PSA 10. Now that we know how terrible it is to grade those, that's a good deal. and then just a subset NTRPA 3120. This is a fun one because this is his highest price card, $132,000 for his flawless true NFL Shield rookie patch auto out of one, August 18th, 2022 on the PWCC Premier Auction. Well, I took Justin Herbert and his flawless Shield RPA PSA 8 sold for 229,000. So like here is the after the first two, here's the first quarterback where it's like, actually, that doesn't work because Justin Herbert was so hot. People are spending way more money on him than they're spending on Trey Lance going into this season. As for calendar, you can see it there. Justin Herbert, hot name, worst record of the three quarterbacks we've talked about. Of course, there's a lot of close losses there 23-20, 21-16, 38-31. It's only a touchdown, 30-27, 31-30, 31-26. 29-21 is still only a touchdown and an extra point or and a 2-point conversion. I mean, there is a lot of one score losses in there where they have a new coach, new system, could be a lot better. You go to Trey Lance's schedule, and all of a sudden, this is where it gets rosy. I expect the 49ers to beat Chicago. I expect them to beat Seattle. I expect them to beat Carolina and Atlanta. I expect them to beat Seattle again. And I probably expect them to beat the Commanders. So that's like 6 wins automatically. And then you just go through and say, all right, who else are they going to beat? They probably beat the Angels or the Rams at home and lose to the Rams on the road. They might do the same with Denver. All of a sudden you're at 8 wins and you only need to find a couple more. Seems like Trey Lance and the 49ers have the easiest path of all the rookie quarterbacks, and we didn't bring up Mac Jones or Justin Fields today, to win the most games of any of the 2021 quarterbacks, to make the playoffs of any of the 2021 quarterbacks, and to do damage in the playoffs.
He's also on the best team roster-wise out of any of those guys, right? I mean, the 49ers are, what, a few years removed from a nice Super Bowl run there against the Chiefs and have a lot of that same talent. They've got a really good offensive system. But what people need to temper their expectations on is, and you see this all the time in sports, is the Trey Lance to Patrick Mahomes comparison in terms of he sat for his first year. He's got a rocket arm. He's the next Mahomes. You see it every single sport where any two guys are semi-similar at all, and it turns into he's the next so and so. And Trey Lance has way worse mechanics. He doesn't have a Tebow windup, but he's got a little bit of a longer path of the ball, and he's also didn't play D1 football. I mean, one AA or whatever it's called now, but Mahomes played against some legit talent and teams in college, and
but he has Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan has made the playoffs multiple years in a row and the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep, he does. I'm just saying that got to temper some expectations because the price points are baked in at he's the next Mahomes.
Yeah, that's fair.
People are paying that money because they don't want to miss the next Mahomes, and it's just that sitting out your rookie season thing that's sticking in mind.
And even the next Mahomes thing, like I get it, but look what Mahomes prices have done. You know, he hasn't gone back to the Super Bowl. Prices have tanked.
Yep, I mean, the sports card world is what have you done for me lately? Unless it's a card that's 60 years old, and then it's what have you kind of done in terms of moving up or other relevant events?
Yeah. So it's wild. Let's go quick. Contract year players. So that's bulk of our bulk of our conversation. We'll go quick through here. Contract year players, players that you should know that Dave thinks will be playing harder for a contract because that's generally how it happens, right, Dave? Player needs a contract and they give it their all.
Yep. I mean, when you have guys playing at this level, and how competitive the majority of players are. If someone feels disrespected, they got a chip on their shoulder, whatever, like they're going to be out to prove folks wrong. And you've it's been a classic go to for fantasy football players. Who's somebody going into a contract year? And generally, you target those guys for your sleepers or some other maybe like breakout kind of guys. And for the most part, you tend to have more wins than losses on those.
Okay. I like that. I like that approach. If I play fantasy football this year, I am going to try that out. So let's go through these quick. We'll just show a graph. We'll show a player. It's 5 players, and then Dave, you say I would take a chance on this guy or not. Good with
Okay,
that?
perfect.
All right, Lamar Jackson. Last 6 months, his select field level silver PSA 10 has dropped 7%, from $750 down to $698. In the last month, though, it has raised um, a pretty good chunk. We'll give it that. But in the last 6 months, it has dropped 7%. Dave, would you be buying into Lamar Jackson right now?
Yes, but not long term because I don't like mobile quarterbacks.
Okay. I am going to say yes. Also, I agree with the mobile quarterback thing, but also Lamar was one of those underdog type of guys that I love to cheer for. So, I mean, especially this year when he got disrespected and wasn't even put in the top 10 quarterbacks of what was that list? Was it an NFL list? Was it a CBS list? Was it an ESPN list? I don't remember, but he wasn't a top 10 quarterback, former MVP,
Mm-hmm.
not a top 10 QB. Get
Yeah.
out of here. So I am also always and forever on the Lamar Jackson train. Number two, Drew Lock, 2019 Optic Hollow PSA 10, has raised 81% in the last 6 months from $44 to $80. One real quick point on this thing is that you'll notice, can you see my mouse if I hover it over this?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, this here, 818, buy it now. This one, auction. Buy it now, auction, auction, buy it now. Pretty sure this one was an auction on 323. So like 5.8, buy it now. Probably the next auction, somebody's like, oh, it sold for this much just a little bit ago. I got a good deal. And then the next auction tanked, and then somebody couldn't wait and they had to buy it now. And then auction tanked, and then somebody couldn't wait and buy it now. So like take this chart with a real grain of salt in that some of these are just people being too impatient to wait for an auction and making a very poor financial decision. That being said, Dave, Drew Lock, contract year with the Seahawks, yes or no?
No, because I'm a firm believer in that when your initial team gives up on you, it's really tough to be successful. Like try to think other than someone like Brett Favre, who got traded after his rookie year from the Falcons to the Packers. When a quarterback switches teams in his first few years, how many have become like league leading all time greats, Pro Bowlers, whatever? It's really tough to come up with a long
I
list.
mean, off the top of my head, the only ones I can think of, Brett Favre, like you said, Drew Brees, and Steve Young.
You're right.
That,
Out
that,
of
that's it.
hundreds of quarterbacks that have been traded or switched teams within their first handful of years, right? Like,
Yeah.
so when it comes to Lock, maybe you take a flyer on him. Hope the Seahawks start off hot. He throws 4 touchdowns, but definitely wouldn't want him long term. And maybe he'll get out of a dink and dunk mindset like he had in Denver of always dumping off to the running back or throwing to the tight
And
end.
having a dinker dunk mindset in Denver in that thin air when you can chuck the ball a country mile, and he had great wide receivers, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Judy, Noah Fant. It's like, come on. Insane.
Admittedly, in the 2019 draft, like he was my guy. I bought a ton. I bought a gold prism and stuff like that because the dude, I watched a preseason game. He had a rocket arm, a cannon, and I ended up selling the last of my lock stuff, I think in January or February of this year. I was like, nope, I'm good.
Didn't even want to take a chance with him and DK Metcalf, huh?
Nope. Didn't I had other stuff I was moving it into. I had some Mbappe's I was buying.
All right. Daniel Jones has grown 4% in the last year on his or 6 months on his Prism Silver. Don't need to discuss the prices at all. Are you in on Daniel Jones or no?
Uh, no, the Giants aren't in on him. They declined his 5th year. But again, somebody that has some motivation, maybe a chip in the shoulder, and the division's not that great, right? Like we talked about it, kind of has some up and downs. I mean, we talked with Jalen Hurts. Hurts could easily not pan out, and if Giants go right off 3-4, you make a nice little run. But I'd be out on Jones.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I people were flabbergasted when they drafted him, and 4 years later, people are still flabbergasted. And then Baker Mayfield obviously just got traded to the Panthers. His 2018 Kaboom PSA 10 has grown 6% in the last 6 months from 1,200 to 1,275. In the last month, though, it has raised significantly more than that. Are you in on a 5th year Baker Mayfield new team with weapons, or do you think what we've seen from him the last couple of years is what he is? I know he is injured and everything, but
I
you,
would I would love to say left yes, because I like Baker Mayfield. I like his story being a walk on twice in college, and being a 6 foot dude, maybe being the number one pick, and kind of always coming back from that adversity, and being an underdog. But again, if I'm using my rule of thumb of name the quarterbacks that move teams in their first handful of years and were successful long term, I got to be out. But the the NFC South, there's potential there. I mean, you still got to get past Tom Brady and the Bucks, but the rest of the teams in that division aren't looking great.
Jameis would like to have a word with you.
Well, let's see how his knee's holding up after shredding it last year, and he can have all the words he wants.
That's fair. All right. Um, Last two, Saquon Barkley. This is insane to me. $519 for his Optic Downtown PSA 10. It's a pop 112, I believe, 113. I want to know what you think, but I know what I think.
This is where it's tough, because I think Saquon Barkley is going to bounce back. Now, that's not me saying someone go buy this card for $500. I would draft him in fantasy as my number 2 running back, and go win my fantasy league with him potentially. But he's now a year removed from his ACL. Guys always struggle unless your name is Adrian Peterson, coming back from a torn ACL as a running back. You tend to have hamstring issues, Achilles issues, things like that. So he's should be fully healthy. He's gotten a lot of feedback from the coaching staff this year on like one cut and go. Don't like dance around and stuff. So I think he's a bounce back here, but $500 when gas is still $4 a gallon or whatever. I probably wouldn't buy that one.
Yeah, and that's my biggest problem. Like, obviously, Saquon was amazing at Penn State. He still has the talent. You bring up a good point. A year removed from injury, usually guys, you get away from it and you get healthy, which could be terrifying for the league if Joe Burrow is one more year removed from injury. Um, that being said, that is a lot of money to bet on the bounce back of a running back.
Yeah.
We're
Can
not
you
talking
just
a quarterback here.
Yeah. Can you just pull up Gabriel's comment real quick? He said that Saquon is absolutely terrible looking. Oh, I added absolutely, but he's right. That big giant cartoon dude in the back, it's kind of an ugly card.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on there. Very strange, but more power to whoever designed it, I guess. Panini, they do whatever they want. And then lastly, we're not going to waste any time on this. Josh Jacobs, he's in a contract year. Real quick, one word, yes or no?
I if I could buy him cheap, yeah.
Okay. I mean, obviously, Devontae Adams there, big expectations. Hunter Renfro is really good. Darren Waller's good.
And Derek
Tough
Carr now
division,
has
though.
something to prove, as the news came out that Tom Brady's comments of wanting to go to the Raiders the other and it kind of came out with that John Gruden nixed the deal, and Derek Carr is supposed to be that guy that Brady said they're keeping that bleep bleep over taking me. I think Derek Carr is going to be a little motivated this
I
year.
like it. Whatever it takes. And he's got his best friend, so don't underestimate the power of being able to throw to your best friend every weekend.
Right.
And real quick, extension candidates. uh, Along the Patrick Mahomes lines, you sign Pat Mahomes to a huge contract. All of a sudden, you're not comfortable keeping Tyreek Hill. You're not comfortable keeping other guys, Eric Fisher, guys like that, and so you let them go. Hard to keep talent around a guy making a massive deal. Now, things that need to be said is that when Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert sign their big deals, it doesn't start right away. It will start in a few years, or their caps will be super low the first couple of years. So it's not like that drastic. But if your guy signs a huge extension this year, you can expect the Bengals in 3 years to have way worse talent around him. And then he's going to have to take a huge step up. He's going to have to be Aaron Rodgers level to be able to lead your team to the playoffs every single year.
Yep.
So,
And if you're picking up cards like this, either via purchase or trade, you got to have a plan for it. And you got to know, I mean, take some time, dig into it and go, okay, he's after his third year. He just signed his extension now that he's eligible to sign one. What is that first year where that cap count is like 50 million or whatever it is, and go, do I want to hold it past that point or not? So like you got to have a plan for every card, and some maybe a few years out, some maybe a few months out.
yeah, and with the contract Aaron Rodgers is signed at $50 million a year, you better bet Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are looking at that and saying that's what we want.
Yep.
And it's
And
going to be
then
5 years, $250 million, something like that.
fully guaranteed, um, if not more, because TV contracts keep going up in revenue and salary cap keeps growing. So it's insane. There's been a lot of debate of should you just have a set percentage of a cap that goes to quarterbacks, like league mandate kind of thing. And that would
Oh,
be that's a whole nother topic, but that'd be an interesting philosophical conversation to have sometime.
yes, it would. That would that would be interesting. But what do you do if Aaron Rodgers gets you're a team real quick? You're a team with a decent quarterback, not great. Um, Derek Carr. You have Derek Carr, pretty good, not great. You want to keep him. He wants the full portion of the quarterback cap, but Aaron Rodgers gets the full portion of the quarterback cap. It's the same thing that happens in the NBA when guys get supermax that aren't really worth, or they get the max deal and not really worth the max deal, but a team needs to keep them around. Um, that could create interesting dilemmas
Mhm.
inside organizations.
It could also create some very interesting movement around the league. Like if you think back to what was that movie with Adam Sandler, Mr. Deeds, where he inherits like the football team and the quarterback comes in and he's like, I want an extension and whatnot. And he's like, no, you're not a good dude. Like, that's not how we act. We're cutting you. And then he ends up like coming back at the end of the movie. He's like, oh, nobody would sign me. Give me money. Like you could have stuff like that happen. Like you let the market play out. Again, anyways, we're getting off topic.
Sure.
That
We are getting off topic. So Joe Burrow, contenders PSA 10, has dropped 16% in the last 6 months to $5,000. If you're buying it, like Dave said, have a plan. Same with Justin Herbert, dropped 21% in the last 6 months from 7,500 to 5,950. If you're buying it, contract coming up, have a plan. And then Justin Jefferson, and this one's interesting to me because you just watched as the Packers got rid of Devontae Adams, even though they were going to re-sign him, but they got rid of him, not paying a huge cap hit for a wide receiver and a quarterback. Kansas City Chiefs doing the same thing, Tyreek and Patrick, and you've got the Vikings. If they can continue to pay Kirk Cousins, well, newsflash for Viking fans out there and everyone else, Justin Jefferson is going to be the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history the moment he needs an extension. Without a doubt, he is going to get the biggest contract a wide receiver will ever get. And then the year after him, Jamar Chase will get the biggest contract a wide receiver has ever gotten. And I suppose it's probably more of a concern for the Bengals than the Vikings, because the Vikings don't really have that quarterback where they could cast off Kirk Cousins, get a cheap quarterback, and pay Justin Jefferson. The Bengals are going to have to pay both those guys, and they don't really have an option.
Yeah.
He's so young, you have to pay him. Like, you cannot pay Devontae Adams because he's going to be in his 30s. You have to pay Jamar Chase. You have to pay Justin Jefferson. But Justin Jefferson's probably going to get like $23 million a year as a wide receiver.
Yep. And he, as a Vikings fan, he deserves every penny. He's our best player. And you're right. They are in a situation, though, where if they can draft or find a quarterback that's not Kirk Cousins, that's taken up. I think Kirk Cousins, if they were to let go of him next year, his dead cap space would be like $48 million or something. Then there's room for growth there, because if you could take a quarterback in the first round, you don't have to pay him big bucks for 5 years, and that's 5 more years of Jefferson not hurting the team's cap situation.
There you go. I'm definitely. It's a good problem to have. Having to pay the best player in the NFL at the position is money, but it also is brutal when it used to be not as big of a pill to swallow signing and you can thank the Jaguars and Christian Kirk for this one. All right, and we're going to end it right here because we're out of time, but I want you to give me just real quick. You see this post Aaron put up, Mon Mania, NTRPA 5 of 5 with the sweet Vikings word there, right above the number, $4,000, and then a gold auto for $33.50 on August 14th. I want to run through a couple more slides, and then you give me just your Vikings take. The other day, he went 10 for 20 for 82 yards and 2 interceptions. The day before that, he went like 13 for 17, or game before that, 13 for 17 with 2 touchdowns. People freaked out, said Kellen Mond's the future. Kirk Cousins is trash. The next game, he plays a actual good defense, and he goes 10 for 20 for 82 yards and two interceptions. So let's pump the brakes on the Kellen Mond is the future thing. And then also the Kirk Cousins is trash thing. Here are his career stats. He's 33, 29, and 1 with Minnesota, which obviously is league average QB, whatever. But here's his last year's stats. Top 10. Passer rating. He was tied for 4th with Russell Wilson with a 103.1 passer rating. He was 9th in passing yards per game. He was 9th in passing touchdowns. He was 2nd in passing interception percentage. And unlike the other guys, Aaron Rodgers obviously above him, and Aaron Rodgers number 1 on the list in both. But unlike some of the other guys below him, Carson Wentz, Teddy Bridgewater, Jared Goff, guys that aren't actually Ben Roethlisberger and Daniel Jones, like they didn't throw a lot of picks, but they weren't very good at football because they weren't on the passing touchdown percentage list either, or the passer rating or anything like that. You get the passing touchdown percentage, and Kirk Cousins was 7th. And so it's like not throwing interceptions, throwing touchdowns, top 10 in yards, top 4 in passer rating. And yet somehow people say Kirk Cousins is trash. Get rid of Kirk Cousins, go to Kellen Mond after 1 preseason game. And then all those people that spent all that money and all that time harassing Kirk Cousins and calling him trash, watch Kellen Mond throw 2 interceptions and go 50% completion percentage in a preseason game. I hope they all feel like idiots.
There was a lot there, but I appreciate someone standing up for Kirk Cousins, because it does not happen, especially since half the time people call him Kurt and not Kirk. So they don't even take the time to know what his name is. I will say that the biggest knock with Cousins, and you'll hear it from Minnesota fans as well, like myself, is he doesn't show up in the big games, and he struggles against good teams. I think about a year ago, I looked at his 2020 season and just for fun broke down how do you do against teams with a winning percentage, and I mean it was pretty statistical in terms of as the teams got better, his performance got worse, kind of thing. Now, could be a lot of other factors, defense, you're playing ahead or behind, whatever it may be. But that's the biggest knock is people want to see him make the playoffs and win a playoff game and beat the Packers in Lambeau type of thing.
Well, that will never happen.
Yeah, probably not. Although if
I'm
Rodgers' receivers can't catch anything this year, like he seems to be frustrated with, maybe it'll happen.
The grass is always greener on the other side, and the fact that people are willing to spend huge money on a backup quarterback when their starting quarterback is definitely at least an average QB is insanity to me.
And this is where it's good to spend 5 minutes before you buy something and do research. Because, like I said, I'm pretty sure Kirk Cousins, he signed an extension in March. If the Vikings cut him after the season, I'm pretty sure he's got like 48 million of dead cap space. I
which
don't
they're
care that
never going to
Kellen
do.
Mond is only $1 million of cap space. If you cut Kirk after the season and Mond's the starter, you're not going to take on 48 million of dead cap. Like, especially since the Vikings are in a tough cap situation anyways and need to keep guys. Now, I will say you showed the Nick Mullins trade. Everybody's been talking to Instagram about the Kellen Mond pump and dump, whatever it may be. I don't think they brought Mullins in to replace Mond. I think they brought Mullins in to replace Sean Mannion, because Sean Mannion, I think, probably has it up here in the quarterback room. But if you look at his regular season stats, when he's had to fill in, I think he filled in at Green Bay. What was it, last year? The dude is not. He needs to retire and go coach. So I think they brought Mullins in to be the number 2, and Mannion won't be on the team, and Mond, they'll either maybe try to slide onto the practice squad or keep 3 quarterbacks, and he'll be your developmental guy and compete with whoever is after Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. So likelihood is that there's a couple people out there that just spent $3,000+ on a third string, maybe practice squad QB.
But maybe their plan is, I'm going to hold them because I watched them in college and saw some shining last year. But the preseason
Well,
stuff, everybody plays more
well
defense.
then, if that's their plan, then they just fell prey to buying at a very poor time, because you could have bought this same card in 2 months when he's not playing for significantly cheaper.
You probably could have bought it 6 months ago for significantly cheaper as well. But
So,
yeah, it's definitely not warranted.
yeah. So the Kellen Mond stuff, insane. But if there's one thing people like in NFL collecting outside of starting QBs, it's backup QBs that they can dream on.
Yep, because if a
Have
dude gets hurt, you can sell it instantly.
Yep. All right, Dave. Well, we have gone 7 minutes over, so we should cut this off here. That is our YouTube live. Dave, thank you for joining this Monday. Thank you for spending about 11 extra minutes than you signed up for here. Appreciate that. And any last words before you go?
No, just thanks for having me, and I hope Aaron doesn't get eaten by a bear up north.
Yeah, that would be quite the story, anyways. And to everyone else, thank you for joining our YouTube live this Monday. We will be back on Sunday for the PWCC Flipcast, and then next Monday for the next YouTube live. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we will talk to you guys again next time.